Hello and welcome to This Is Us. I'm Becca King-Reed, and this week we're coming to you from the San Jose Fire Museum. This is a 1931 Mack fire truck, and it's just the beginning. Later in the show, we'll show you literally tons of historic fire equipment that served San Jose throughout the years. You'll also meet three local heroes, a helicopter pilot for Cal Fire who've seen more than his share of action and fought a number of blazes, a pilot who saved 155 lives when he miraculously landed his jet airliner on the Hudson River, and a fire captain whose search and rescue partnership will melt your heart. We've got a lot of great stories to share, and it all starts now.
This is us.
Welcome back to the San Jose Fire Museum. Joining me is Fire Captain Sean Lovins. Sean, thanks for letting us in the museum this morning.
Of course, thank you for coming.
Oh, we're happy to be here. This is a great place, and we'd like to know a little bit about it. What's the mission?
Well, the mission of the San Jose Fire Museum is really to preserve and protect the history of San Jose and its fire department. And we do that through acquiring and maintaining apparatus, historical documents, and photos.
And so you really preserve a lot of that early history. And when did that history begin?
Well, here in San Jose, we were the first state capital. So in 1850, the city of San Jose was established, and quickly thereafter, a group of citizens was formed to perform fire protection, and they were called the Eureka Fire Company, and they did that through bucket brigades. A fire department was established as a city ordinance in 1854 with hook and ladder number 1.
So those early firemen, I've heard that they were called the house wreckers. That doesn't sound promising. Tell us about that.
Well, they were. The early firefighting tactics were really archaic, and out here on the West Coast, there weren't firefighting equipment. There was no pumps, no steamers, just buckets and water. So the only options were to put the fire out with the buckets and water or to pull the house down. So many times the quickest method was to just remove the burning material and remove the house to prevent spread throughout the city.
Ah, now you mentioned steamers, and that's what we're standing in front of, a steamer. Tell us a little bit about this beautiful thing.
So this is Franklin steamer number 3. It was purchased in 1890. And it came all the way from New Hampshire, specifically for the San Jose Fire Department. At that time, it was $4,300 to purchase.
Wow-wee.
And this steamer served the city for many years. It actually pumped the 1906 quake. The station at the time after the quake was a brick station, and it collapsed on the firefighting and the equipment. So the firefighters had to dig out the apparatus and then pull it out and go fight fires throughout the day. We actually had damage and fires from the 1906 quake, just like in San Francisco.
Wow. Now, how did this work? What's going on back here?
Well, essentially it's a locomotive on its side. It's the same premise of using coal-fired steam to create a pump and pump water to a fire. In fact, there's still dents from the 1906 quake where the bricks actually collapsed on this piece.
That's a great story. And we'll be back in a minute with more great stories about San Jose firefighting history. But first, let's meet a pilot who fights fires from the air. John Gregg has the story.
He used to fly into battle, armed with a 3-barrel 200mm cannon and Sidewinder missiles. These days, Cal Fire helicopter pilot Tom Humane's best weapon is water.
Clear. We're starting.
A former Marine Corps helicopter pilot, Humane is among an elite group of aviators who fly for Cal Fire battling blazes and protecting life and property. To call him intrepid would be a huge understatement. The guy's flat out brave, and he looks like he just fell off a box of Wheaties.
It's the most challenging flying that I've ever done. You show up on the fire, and you've got a few things that are going to keep you busy. One is the obvious one, is the smoke itself. You know, you're flying on the fire, you've got reduced visibility, you've got turbulence created by the fire itself. Just that heat alone coming off the fire can create a lot of turbulence, throw a lot of debris through the air. And then on a bigger fire or on an intense fire, you've got an immense amount of radio traffic on numerous radios.
It's understandable why flying for Cal Fire can be daunting. Along with dealing with a helicopter and all the radio chatter, Humane is also looking out for the welfare of his crew on the ground.
You're dropping water, you're keeping in contact with your crew on the ground, making sure that you're safe, making sure that they're safe, putting water where they need to go, not flying into other aircraft. There's a lot going on.
Humane flies with a crew of 7 highly skilled firefighters, including 2 captains. All the men volunteer for the duty. They're stationed at Boggs Mountain, just north of Calistoga.
Our fire crew operates as a self-contained unit. We have the ability to go do what we refer to as initial attack, which is there's an immediate fire call and we'll man up and we'll go take it. And we're prepared to take that fire on by ourselves if we need to. The firefighters and at least 1, but maybe 2 of the captains will hop out. They're going to grab all their firefighting tools, which are essentially tools that they're going to use to cut a hasty fire break. And they've got a little bit of water on board, not so much to extinguish the fire, but really just to keep themselves safe from them getting burned over.
Humane didn't start out fighting fires in a Huey. When he first graduated from College of the Holy Cross, he joined the United States Marine Corps. They sent him to flight school and taught him how to fly helicopters. He ended up flying Super Cobras off of amphibious assault ships, the USS Peleliu and Bonhomme Richard. That included chasing down pirates and flying dangerous missions.
Ship takedowns, interdiction against pirates, like some of the stuff that occurs off the coast of Somalia. We did some humanitarian assistance down on the islands of Timor, Indonesia, all those kind of areas there. I flew Operation Southern Watch over on the border of Iraq. And most of my flying at that time was in the late 90s, right up until 2000.
Humane's career took a different twist when he applied and was accepted to fly Marine One, the helicopter that flies the President of the United States. Humane ended up being the guy you saw touch down and fly away from the White House lawn during George W. Bush's first term.
It's an unbelievable experience. I think especially the first time you get to do it. I mean, I still remember flying in an October evening in 2001 on my very first assignment to fly the President, and we were taking the President from the White House to Andrews Air Force Base, and he was very excited too because it was the night that he was going to get to throw out the first pitch at Yankee Stadium following all the devastation of 9/11.
For Major Humane, it was one of his best memories of flying the President.
I'll never forget when we picked him back up at the end of the evening at Andrews, and he gets back on board the helicopter, and the guy's just, he's got a grin a mile wide. He's pumped. And, you know, we were just talking to him a little bit about how he threw a good strike down the middle to Posada, and he was excited about it. He was just genuinely happy, and it made it a memorable experience for all of us.
In 2003, Humane was piloting President Bush over the massive San Diego County wildfires that destroyed over 2,200 homes. He decided then that after he left the military, he wanted to fight fires from the air. Humane's military training and discipline has paid off on the job.
It's tough because you show up and you're amped, you're ready to go. The adrenaline is rushing. You want to get working on that fire, but you got to take a second, slow down, and take a real good look and scour everything for hazards. Calm the entire crew down. You got a bunch of young firefighters in the back that they're also amped and they're ready to go.
Despite the inherent danger of flying into fires, the former pilot for Marine One couldn't be happier about his current job.
It's something I'm very proud to be a part of, and I never thought that I was going to be able to replicate what I had in the Marine Corps as far as that kind of pride to serve. Yet I've found it again, and so lightning has struck twice in my life, and I feel pretty fortunate to have had that happen.
Welcome back to the San Jose Fire Museum. Joining me is Fire Captain Sean Lovins. And Sean, this is a fabulous piece of equipment, and it's in 2 parts. Tell us what it is.
So this is a 1914 Knox Martin tractor, and it's pulling an 1898 American steam engine. So Knox Martin was really the inventor of the 5th wheel, and they touted this as the most efficient and effective way for the supplanting of horses.
Okay, so horses would have been here before.
Traditionally, yes, and in 1914, the San Jose Fire Department became fully motorized, so we purchased motorized equipment to pull the effective steamers.
And I noticed that it's got 3 wheels. How did that work?
This was the original tractor design. The last 3-wheel tractor rolled off the assembly line in 1915. but it was a three-wheel tractor, and the driver sat up very high, and it was very difficult to see which position the front wheel was in, so they manufactured an arrow to give him a little help.
So you always know where you're going in this. Okay, well, thanks very much. We'll be back in a minute with a fabulous fire truck from the 1930s, but first, we're going to meet a local pilot whose grace under pressure helped to save 155 lives on an icy morning in New York.
Every day, thousands of flights take off and land, and all we can think about are long lines, no legroom, and bad peanuts. It's all rather mundane. However, when things go wrong up there, it can all turn bad very quickly. Hemingway said as we get older, it's harder to find heroes, but it's sort of necessary. Well, this is a hero story about a pilot who worked and trained and prepared for 40 years for that one moment when collectively we all needed a hero, and about a guy nicknamed Sully that saved 155 lives.
I remember vividly my first solo flight, and I think it was just a sense of mastery of the skills and of the elements in the situation, and a sense of freedom.
Tall, lean, with clear blue eyes and silver hair, he looks the part of a pilot. Chesley Sully Sullenberger soloed at 16 and went on to earn his military wings at the United States Air Force Academy in 1975. He was known as a pilot's pilot, and in 1980 he went on to become a commercial airlines pilot for 30 years. All that training paid off when Sully managed to land his aircraft on the icy Hudson River, saving all the souls on board.
Cactus 1549, 700, climbing 5,000.
Flight 1549 on January 15, 2009 was completely routine and unremarkable for about the first 100 seconds. And then it instantly became, for all of us, an ultimate challenge of a lifetime. And I was aware of it at the time. I knew it as it was happening, that this was going to be unlike every other flight I'd ever had.
Less than 2 minutes after takeoff, Flight 1549 out of LaGuardia Airport in New York sustained structural damage to both of her engines and severe power loss due to multiple bird strikes.
This is Cactus 1539, hit birds, so you lost thrust on both engines, returning back towards LaGuardia.
Okay, you need to return to LaGuardia. Turn left heading up 220.
220.
First, I forced calm on myself. Second, I imposed order on a situation that might have been confusing or overwhelming or chaotic. In other words, I took a lifetime of experience and knowledge and training, and I imposed that paradigm on this situation to make it one I knew how to solve, even though this particular situation we'd never specifically trained for.
Cactus 1529, if we can get it for you, do you want to try to land 1013?
We're unable. We may end up in the Hudson.
Losing altitude and running out of options, Sully also knew he was running out of time to make it back to an airport.
It would have been a catastrophic accident for everyone on board, and if I didn't make it that far, it might even be harmful to people on the ground.
Cactus 1529, turn right 280, you can land runway 1 at Teterboro.
We can't do it.
Okay, which runway would you like at Teterboro?
We're going to be in the Hudson.
2 minutes after the initial bird strike, Sully made a chilling announcement. This is the captain. Brace for impact.
I can't make it to LaGuardia. I'm watching Teterboro rise in the windshield, a sure sign that we can't glide that far. And so the only option left, the final place I could take it in such a densely populated and developed urban area, was the river.
With the help of his equally valiant co-pilot, Jeff Skiles, a little less than 6 minutes after takeoff, Sully and Flight 1549 splashed down in the Hudson.
It was a hard landing, obviously, and in the back, it felt like a very hard landing. But it didn't seem that bad to us. Of course, we didn't know quite what to expect. In fact, one of the funny things that happened in just a brief moment, as soon as we stopped in the river, right before I opened the cockpit door to command the evacuation, in the most amazing coincidence, Jeff and I turned to each other in the cockpit and said in the same words at the same time, well, that wasn't as bad as I thought. But then we had to quickly get on with the evacuation duties.
According to Sully, the crew did an exceptional job of evacuating everyone safely and got them standing on the wings where they awaited rescue. Within 4 minutes, the first ferry arrived and started picking up passengers. The captain was the last man off the plane, and it took some time for him to fully appreciate what had happened.
I had never really had a sense of relief or a chance to relax until about 4 hours later, when I officially got the word that everyone had been accounted for and everyone was safe. But no, I didn't have a chance to sell it. I didn't feel like celebrating at all until we knew that everyone was accounted for.
What followed for the veteran pilot and his crew was acclaim and worldwide recognition. Sully retired and went on to write a best-selling book, and he's working on another that deals with a topic he knows a great deal about: leadership. For his wife of 23 years, Lori, and their 2 daughters, the world has become a different place.
Everything has changed, and yet nothing has changed. I mean, he still takes out the trash, but Harrison Ford calls, and so it's weird.
At one point, we were in New York.
We still get letters from people almost every day. We got a lot of Christmas cards from families. We laid them out, and there are often those Christmas cards with pictures of families and young children smiling into the camera, and they signed them saying, "Still believing in miracles," or "Thank you for another year with our family." And then they would sign their name and their seat number. And one day, Sully came in, and we looked down on the counter and just went, all those children, all those young children. So it takes your breath away sometimes.
A bond now exists between the crew, the passengers, and their families that experienced the miracle on the Hudson.
Young women would come up to me, and their husbands had been on the flight, and, thank you for not making my 3-year-old son fatherless. Thank you for not making me a widow. I mean, and those, to all of us, the passengers and crew, were having these conversations. It was just unbelievable.
On a bitterly cold day in January, Captain Sully Sullenberger displayed extreme grace under pressure and proved that Hemingway was right. We still need our heroes.
Now, Sean, this is the biggest and by far the most ornate fire engine we've looked at so far. Tell me about this gold leaf scrollwork.
Well, this is a 1937 American LaFrance fire engine, and it was originally purchased for the Willow Glen Fire Department. And that's probably why they took so much care in designing and making such an ornate piece of equipment, because it was going to be their only fire engine. What happened was the Willow Glen City was annexed by the city of San Jose before they took delivery, and it became our fire engine and served as engine 1 for almost 20 years.
So lucky for you. Now, that was in 1937, you say?
Yes.
And that was right during the Depression.
Yes, this apparatus cost $13,000 originally.
Wow. Wow, that's
so
a
a lot
big
of money.
investment.
Yeah, right after the Depression.
And so no wonder they took fine care of it. It really looks beautiful today, even though I know you haven't restored it.
No, we haven't.
And so this is just what it
We've
looks like.
left it in a state of being the way it was delivered to us.
Well, it's amazing. It's quite the machine. Now, tell me about this. I didn't see this on any of the others.
This is a unique characteristic of this piece. The pump panel, or the discharges in this case, are in front of the firewall, which was a unique design for this 37 LaFrance. Most of all other fire engines have that equipment all behind the driver, so it's really neat and interesting.
Did they carry this forward?
They didn't. This was a design only for a few years, and I think they went back to the traditional rear-mounted style.
So not as popular. Tell me about this gigantic engine.
Well, it's a V12, so essentially it's 2 6-cylinder engines just smashed together. So it's really the workhorse of fire engines for the day.
I guess it could do a lot of work at 12 horses. How, can you start that still? Can you fire it up?
Yes, this apparatus runs. Much of our collection is what we call a living museum. So these apparatus can be taken to parades and community events throughout the year and shared with everybody in the community.
I understand that most of the fire apparatus here really did come from San Jose as well.
It did. We're very fortunate that most of our equipment actually served the citizens of San Jose at one time and now is in the hands of the museum.
Well, thanks for showing us. We'll be back in a minute with one more really cool fire vehicle. But first, John Gregg has the story of a remarkable partnership between a man and a dog.
Go get him. Good. Search.
It's a partnership. A partnership that goes back thousands of years ago when men first domesticated dogs and they began working together.
Good job. Very nice.
In the case of Marin Fire Captain Jimbo Jerry and his search and rescue dog Nino, the partnership is also a heartfelt friendship.
Nino is about a 6.5-year-old fox red Labrador retriever. We've been together approximately 3.5 years now. Nino does live human scent in disaster environments, people buried under rubble after major catastrophes, bombings, things of that nature.
Good boy, Carlos.
Scientists believe that dogs were first domesticated from gray wolves about 15,000 years ago. They were used for hunting, herding, and companion animals.
Ready? Come on.
Wait.
Nino was rescued from the Placerville SPCA and trained as a search dog and then put to work.
Typically these dogs are just these really high energy, wonderful dogs who people think are going to be great pets. But unfortunately they have so much energy they realize that it takes a lot more than just putting a dog in a backyard or running them once a week.
Search!
To our benefit, we find these dogs and put them through some basic training, search training, obedience, and agility, and turn these dogs into rescuers.
Attaboy. Very nice.
Following 9/11, there's been a high premium placed on search and rescue dogs. The training is rigorous, and it takes about a year to find the right dogs for the job.
Nino is a live scent dog. That's all they work for is live human scent, people who are buried, people who are not have perished. One of the things that we will do with our dogs is what they call proof the dog. We will bury cadaver material within the training pile. We don't want our dogs alerting on cadaver material. We are specifically looking for people who are alive, who are buried.
Fire department search team, is there anybody in there?
For us, when we train, it's all about the victim. We don't want the handlers really engaging. We want that victim to be the greatest thing in the world.
Good boy. Get him.
All the fun, all the excitement comes from the victim that's in there.
Get him.
Nino lives with Jim and his family, and they put in countless hours training together, weekdays and weekends. So what makes a great search and rescue dog?
High drive, tenacity and high drive, high toy drive.
Go through.
These dogs, for them, it's a game. What I consider to be training, for them, it's playtime.
Cheating.
The National Disaster Search Dog Foundation was founded back in 1995. Jim has been involved for the last 10 years as a volunteer canine handler. His first dog was named Recon in honor of a New York City firefighter who was killed in the line of duty.
Recon and I were paired in October of 2001, right after 9/11. So when I was given my dog, I was told that he was the dog that was chosen, that we would be the team chosen to represent Tim McSweeney and the other firefighters who perished from Ladder 3 at 9/11.
Recon has retired, but Jim and his dog worked together following Hurricane Katrina. Jim and Recon followed that with Hurricane Rita, Gustav, and Ike. It was the devastation of Katrina that left a number of jarring memories.
Our first deployment was to Hurricane Katrina, which, as you can imagine, was an eye-opening experience. As much training as we do, it's really hard to prepare yourself for everything that we can face. We spent about 8 days down in Biloxi, Mississippi, searching an 8 square block area that had been completely decimated by the tidal surge from Katrina.
Sit.
Black, yellow,
Good.
There are 260 certified teams across the nation. Most of the work with the search dogs utilizes firefighters who freely volunteer their time.
I think there's going to be a greater demand for these dogs. When we look at what happens around the world between natural disasters, be it tornadoes and earthquakes and hurricanes and things of that nature, and then we get into the man-made disasters, the need is very high.
Bo Jerry has been a firefighter for 24 years, and he seems to have found his calling in working with the dogs.
I love the dogs. I love the mission of the Search Dog Foundation, the thought of being able to make that big a difference in somebody's life, to be able to save somebody who's buried. If that was my family member, I would want to know that there were people out there with the same skills and abilities that my dog and I have to make a difference in somebody's life.
Jim and Nino train relentlessly just in case the time comes when they are needed. It's what you would expect from friends and partners.
Welcome back to the San Jose Fire Museum. Sean, I've seen a lot of Cadillacs, but nothing comes close to this. This is very stylish. Tell us about this car.
This is a 1905 Cadillac Model F touring car.
It is really something. So this would have been for the fire chief?
Yeah, this wasn't originally a San Jose piece, but it is very indicative of early 1900s fire chief's vehicles.
Wow, it is really cool. So it was restored then here?
It was, yes. We have a dedicated group of volunteers who do all of our restoration and maintenance.
Now the thing that I learned about this car when you weren't looking was that this whole top part, all where we're sitting in the back seats, all wood.
Yeah, essentially it's a carriage that was mechanized in the early 1900s.
It is really something. Now, you don't have a traditional brick and mortar museum, so if someone wants to learn more about this vehicle or any of the other vehicles we saw, how would they do that?
Well, we have a virtual museum online at the sanjosefiremuseum.com. And of course, you can always like us on Facebook.
Okay, well, be sure to like the San Jose Fire Museum on Facebook. Captain Sean Lovins, thanks so much for a wonderful tour.
Thank you for visiting.
For all of us at This Is Us, I'm Becca King-Reed saying so long. Now we're going to toot our horn.
This is us. This is us. This is us.